Hello, and welcome to Allegion's presentation on lock functions. My name is Gordon Malczewski, and I am a senior product trainer for Schlage under the Allegion umbrella. I'm a certified professional locksmith for over 30 years. I'm also a certified fire door and life safety inspector and a physical security professional certified by As Is. So I've been training for over 30 years and a locksmith for over 40, and I am based in Roanoke, Virginia. So let's jump right into our presentation. I want to thank you for taking time to view this information. So what I'm going to be talking to you about in this presentation are lock components, some of the things that are associated, parts that are associated with various types of locks, because they do have an effect on the functionality of the lock. I'm going to be defining what lock functions are. It's basically a set of behaviors. We're going to be talking about how different lock functions work or operate. Then we're going to take a tour through a building, take a look at a variety of different doors, and determine which lock function would be best suited for that type of opening. And then finally, I'm going to give you some scenarios to take a look at, see if you can use the information I presented to you in today's presentation, and see if you can decide what lock functions would be appropriate for different types of openings. All right, so we're going to start out with lock components so that we can make sure that we're using the proper terms for the same things when we're discussing different types of locks or different lock functions. So at the bottom, you have some choices for some of the part names. So we've got cylinder, cylindrical lock set, we've got deadbolt, latch bolt, mortise lock set, strike, thumb turn, push button, and escutcheon. So those would be your choices for these parts that I'm going to be showing you up on the screen. So we'll start out with number 1. So based on your choices down below, what do you think that this part is called? Okay, so if you selected deadbolt, you would be correct. So this is a deadbolt, which is found in a mortise lock set. Now this is something that will provide additional physical protection in the lock set. A deadbolt is something you can find in a mortise lock set, but it is not available in a cylindrical lock set, lever handle set. Okay, let's try number 2. So any ideas what the name of this part is? Once again, from your choices at the bottom of the screen. This is something that you can use to slam the door behind you. It will automatically latch and or lock the door. It's a little bit of a clue there for you. Okay, so if you said latch bolt, you would be correct. This is a spring-loaded latch bolt, now also used in a mortise lock set. So when you slam the door, the latch is pushed in by the strike plate, then it re-extends, holding the lock or the door in the latch position and or lock, depending on the lock function itself. Okay, next one, choice number 3. What do you think these are called? All right, so if you decided those were called strikes or strike plates, you would be correct. These are mounted on the frame of the door, and they are going to accept the latch bolt and or the deadbolt. Okay, next one, number 4. What do you think that this part is called? All right, if you thought that this was called a cylinder, you would be correct. This is the part that accepts the key. What we're looking at right now is an example of a mortise cylinder because there are threads here on the outside diameter of the cylinder. So this is going to be screwed into a lock case, and then it's going to be held in place with a set screw. So this is a mortise cylinder, part the key goes into. All right, the next one, any idea what this is? This is the complete assembly now that we're trying to get a name for, complete assembly on the door. All right, so if you said that this was a mortise lock set, you would be correct. You'll notice that the body of the lock here is pushed into the edge of the door. It's installed in the edge of the door, and then we have some trim on the surface of the door. So this would be on the a mortise lock set because it is placed inside a pocket or a mortise cutout on the edge of the door. Okay, another one. Let's try number 6. So take a look at what the arrow is pointing at, and we already talked about this previously, but now you can see it installed in the lock set itself. All right, so if you said that this was a deadbolt, you would be correct. This is also the deadbolt, but this time it's installed inside the mortise lock case. Okay, the next one, the arrows pointing at 2 individual parts of lock sets. We've got one on a cylindrical lock set and one on a mortise lock set. This is something you would use to lock the device. Okay, so if you decided thumb turn, that would be correct as well. So the one on the left in the cylindrical lock, this is a push turn or a thumb turn. And here on the right-hand side, we can see a thumb turn used on a mortise lock set. So these are designed to either lock the outside handle or to throw a deadbolt. Okay, next one, number 8. What do you think this is called? All right, so if you said cylindrical lock set, you would be correct. This is cylindrical because it's circular in shape. It is installed in 2 circular holes in the door, one 2 1/8 inch hole through the face of the door, and generally a 1 inch hole in the edge of the door. So the lock body itself is cylindrical or circular in shape. Okay, next we're going to talk about how you define a variety of different lock functions. So we start out with, well, what exactly is a lock function? Well, we say a function is a set of behaviors. It's the way the lock behaves or the way it operates. Now we're going to have different behaviors are going to be suited for different types of applications. So for example, a storeroom function would be well suited for some type of storage room. Now once a function is defined, it is often named by its most common application. I just gave you an example of that. A storeroom function is typically installed on some type of storage room. Now ANSI, which stands for the American National Standards Institute, they work in conjunction with the Builders Hardware Manufacturers Association, and they set certain standards for lock functions. They name the functions, they describe the functions, and then they assign ANSI numbers to those functions, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. So here we have an example of a storeroom or storeroom function. So with a storeroom function, the outside lever is always going to be locked and or fixed or rigid, and a key is always required for entry. So when you insert the key and turn it and momentarily retracts the latch, as soon as you pull the key out, it's going to relock. There's no button on the inside. Inside is always free for immediate egress, but it's always going to be locked. Now for ANSI, if it's a cylindrical lock set, ANSI is going to assign an F86 to a storeroom cylindrical lock set. If you're dealing with a mortise storeroom lock set, ANSI will assign the numbers F07. Now these numbers will appear in manufacturers' catalogs. So this is kind of the universal numbering system for those functions. Now each manufacturer is going to have their own model number, but in addition to that model number, manufacturers will list the ANSI numbers, which is the industry standard. So if you are replacing one model or one brand of lock with another brand, if you find the same ANSI number in both manufacturers' catalog, you know that that function will work the same way. Mounting holes should be similar, especially in a mortise lock. They're generally going to be different. Some of the mounting holes for the cylinder, the through mounting bolts, spindles, and that are going to be different. There are no standards for those dimensions. Cylindrical locks, it's a little more universal. Generally, the only thing that changes is the position of the through mounting bolts on a cylindrical lock set. All right, so here we have some examples of some lock behaviors or sets of operation. So outside lever is always locked. That would be an example of a lock behavior. The inside thumb turn locks the outside lever, another example of a behavior. Or the inside is always free for immediate egress, also an example of a lock behavior. So let's take a look at some different lock functions along with their model numbers and ANSI numbers as well. So we start out with a passage set. In cylindrical, the ANSI number would be F75, and in a mortise lock set, it would be F01. For Schlage, a passage set in a cylindrical is an ND10S, and in a mortise lock, it would be an L9010. Now, a passage set is just designed to latch the door. There is no locking, no key on the outside, no button on the inside. It's just designed to keep the door latched. Typical application is a fire-rated stairwell door. Those generally don't need to be locked, but they do need to be latched at all times because it is a fire-rated door. Next one is a vestibule or an apartment entrance. This is where the outside knob or lever is locked and unlocked by a key on the inside. Now there's also a key on the outside, so when it is locked using a key on the inside, a key will be required on the outside to momentarily retract the latch. So if you can think of the key on the inside as replacing a push button or a thumb turn. So key on the inside locks the outside lever, locks and unlocks the outside lever. When the outside lever is locked, the lock functions like a storeroom, So the outside lever only momentarily retracts the latch. You pull the key out, it's going to relock. So this gives the building owner or superintendent or security force or maintenance the ability to decide when that outside lever is going to be locked and unlocked. So you can see in cylindrical, it's an F88. In a mortise lock, it's an F09 for ANSI. The Schlage model numbers in cylindrical is ND60, and in mortise, it's L9060. Next one is an entrance/office function. So that one's going to have a push button or a thumb turn on the inside. This allows you to lock the office from inside the door. When it is locked on the inside, then you must use a key to gain entry. So it's going to be unlocked or using a key on the outside, turning the thumb turn, or in many cases, if it's just a push button, when you push down on the inside lever, it can put the lock into the unlocked mode. So it depends on the specific function that you're dealing with as to whether or not it's going to unlock when you push down on the inside lever. Next one is a storeroom function. We already discussed that one. That one is locked at all times. You insert the key, turn it, it momentarily retracts the latch. As soon as you pull the key out, it relocks. There is no push button on the inside. The inside is always free for immediate egress. That's storeroom. Okay, so now we're going to take a little tour through the building. We're going to see what particular functions are going to be appropriate for different openings or different rooms within the building. So here we have Mike's medical facility. Now this would be a case of some individuals, some offices, some training rooms. So we're going to walk through the building. We're going to stop at a variety of different doors and decide which lock function might be most appropriate. So we're going to start our walk down the hall. We're going to go to door 109, our first stop, and that's going to be the training room. So for a training room door, we're going to want a key on the outside that locks and unlocks the outside lever. The inside is always going to be unlocked. This is known as a classroom function. Now, the reason we want to lock it and unlock from the outside using a key is we don't want students to be able to lock the teacher out by turning a thumb turn or pushing in a button. So with a classroom lock, you lock and unlock the outside lever using a key in the outside. So that's a classroom function. Our next stop is going to be at a supervisor's office, door 112. So for an office, we want to be able to lock that office door when we're inside the office so we can have some privacy. We want it to be operable by a key on the outside. And then we want a thumb turn or button on the inside to perform the locking. So once again, we want to be able to lock this from the inside using a push button or a thumb turn. So that would be a function entrance or office function. Entry or office function allows you to lock the door from the inside. All right, our next stop is going to be at a janitor's closet. And with a janitor's closet, we want the outside lever to always be fixed, rigid, and or locked. We want there to be a key required for entry each and every time. And we want the inside to always be free. So we don't want people to get locked inside that janitor's closet. Key on the outside. Outside is always locked. No button on the inside. That would be an example of a storeroom function, typically used in storage areas or closets. All right, our next stop is going to be at door 165A. That's going to be at a mail room and file storage area. So for that one, we want to have a thumb turn or push button locking. When we push and turn the button, the outside lever is going to be locked, and we want to require a key until the inside turn button is turned to unlock the outside lever. So that would be an entry function. So there's a slight difference between entry and office. Generally, the difference is between either a push button or a push turn button. When you have a push button on an office function, when you push down the inside lever, the button pops out. If you have a push turn button on an entry office function, if you push the button in and turn it, it's going to stay in, the door is going to stay locked, even when you push down on the inside lever. So just a couple of quite subtle variances between those two different functions. Okay, next one we want to look at is the director's closet. Now here we don't have anything of high value being stored. We basically want to keep that door latched to keep it from swinging open. So it's going to be latching only, no key operation, no push button on the inside. So that would be an example of a passage function. So you begin to see where some of these functions are being used on actual doors in a building. Next one we have for a director's bathroom. Now, obviously, because it's a bathroom, we want to be able to have some privacy. So we want the latch retracted from the outside except when the inside lever or the outside lever is locked by a key on the inside. Or rather, it's a key on the outside, actually. Inside lever is always unlocked. So this would be an example of a cylindrical vestibule apartment entrance. So this one is actually not the director's bathroom. Okay, so this is actually the incorrect function here. But let's take a look at the cylindrical or vestibule lock. So a cylindrical or vestibule lock is designed so that you would be able to lock and unlock the outside with the key on the inside. All right, so it's a key on both sides. So the key on the inside locks and unlocks the outside lever. When it is locked with the key on the inside, then the outside key only momentarily retracts the latch. So as soon as they pull the key out, it's going to relock. So it is in effect a storeroom function at that particular point. All right, so you maybe think to yourself, well, I've seen a lot of additional functions listed in a catalog. So as needs change, as customers' demands change, manufacturers have to develop additional lock functions. So let's take a look at an office now that's shared by field service workers. It's actually a room that they use from time to time. So any field service worker can utilize this room. It can be locked if the field service worker is utilizing the room, if they're having some type of conference and they want privacy. But we wanted to have it unlocked when it's not in use. So as soon as the individual leaves the conference room or the office, we want to make sure it's unlocked to signal to the next person that that room is unoccupied and available for use. So for that one, we're going to have a corridor lock. Now this is a unique function, a little bit more involved in the operation. So a corridor lock is going to have a button on the inside and a key on the outside. Now when you want to lock the door from the inside, you push in the button, you have privacy. As soon as you push down on the inside lever, however, that button is going to pop out. Now, if you want to lock this room down for the night, you would have to open the door, close the door behind you, put your key in the outside, turn the key 360 degrees to lock it from the outside. You cannot simply push the button in and slam the door behind you and have it locked. You would have to purposely lock it with a key. This one is also known as a dormitory function. So if you had students in a dormitory, they could lock the dorm room from the inside when they are in the dorm room by pushing in the button. But as soon as they push down the lever to leave, the button's going to pop out and it's going to unlock. The student would have to use a key to lock the dorm room. This is designed to prevent somebody from locking themselves out. Now, another fairly recent addition to the classroom function, remember that's the one that has a key on the outside. Key on the outside locks and unlocks the outside lever. No push button on the inside. This has to be locked from the outside using a key. The problem is caused if there is a need to lock the door from the inside, and that would be in the case of an active shooter situation in a school. We want to give teachers the ability to lock the door from the inside. And that's why we developed, and other manufacturers as well, classroom security functions, sometimes called a classroom intruder function. This one will have a key on both sides. Either key will lock and unlock the outside lever. This allows the teacher to lock the door from the inside of the classroom without going into the hallway in harm's way. It does require a key to lock the outside lever, so students will not be able to lock the teacher out. The disadvantage is the teacher does have to have the key readily available to do that. Now, to get out of the classroom, you do not need a key. You do not need a key to get out. The inside lever will always be free for immediate egress. All right, so let's take a look at some additional scenarios here. So here we have a tool crib with an open mesh gate. And we've got some high-value tools stored inside, and it's something that must be locked at all times. So we want to decide on the function that would be most appropriate for this application. And here you can see our choices. We've got classroom security. Remember, that's the one that has a key on both sides. Either key locks and unlocks the outside lever. Storeroom would be another choice. Remember, that's the one that's locked at all times. Office or entrance will have either a push button or a push turn button, a thumb turn on the inside that is used to lock and unlock the outside lever. We could have a vestibule or apartment entrance. So a vestibule or apartment entrance, that's the one that has a key on both sides. So when you want the outside lever locked, you turn the key on the inside to lock the outside lever. When it's locked, then it functions like a storeroom. Next one is a corridor, and that's the one that had the button on the inside. But when you push down on the inside lever, that button pops out, and you have to lock this with a key from outside. So which one of these do you think would be appropriate for this tool crib? All right, so if you selected storeroom, I would agree with you. Storeroom is locked at all times. Now, the only issue with the storeroom lock, if you have a gate, open mesh gate, you're going to have some additional protective plates so somebody can't reach in with a bar or rod or a wire and pull down on the inside lever, because if they do that, they're going to be able to get into this tool crib. Okay, let's try another one. Now, here we have a classroom door, and they are using the traditional classroom function lock. Remember, that's the one where you have to have a key on the outside to lock and unlock the outside lever. You can't lock it from the inside. But administration wants teachers to be able to lock down the door from the inside in case there's an active shooter drill or an actual active shooter. So once again, here are your choices. So which one of these do you think would be appropriate for those requirements? Okay, so if you selected classroom security, that would be a good choice. Remember, that's one that has key on both sides. Either key locks and unlocks the outside lever. You do not need a key to get out. The inside is always free for immediate egress. Okay, next we have an office building, an entry door. Now, typically we want to keep that entry to the office building locked at all times, except when there is furniture being moved in. Now, tenants will use their keys to gain entry. Most of the time. Now, as soon as they remove their key, we want it to relock. But the building manager wants to be able to unlock this device, turning it into a passage set when furniture or large equipment is being moved in through the front door. So we want the manager to be able to decide when that is going to be left unlocked or in the passage mode. So which choice do you think would be appropriate for that application? Okay, so if you selected vestibule or apartment entrance, I think that would give you the operation that you want. Remember, the vestibule or apartment entrance, that's the one that has a key on both sides. The key on the inside replaces that thumb turn or push turn button. So the building manager can lock the outside lever using a key on the inside. When it is locked on the outside, the tenant's key only momentarily retracts the latch. As soon as they pull their key out, it's going to relock. Next application is a tenant's office. So we got a tenant inside an office building. They're currently using a standard office function. The problem is the tenant frequently forgets their keys and ends up locking themselves out of their office. So building management wants a lock that's going to help prevent them from getting them locked out or having it accidentally locked. So which one of these choices do you think would help prevent that lock from being accidentally locked when they go out? Okay, so if you selected corridor, that would be correct. Remember, that's the one that has the push button on the inside. You can lock it using the push button from the inside if you want privacy, but as soon as you go out, as soon as you push down the inside lever, that button pops out. It will also pop out anytime the latch hits the strike plate. So for this one, the tenant would now have to use their key on the outside each and every time they want to lock the door. They will not be able to slam the door behind them and have the door lock. All right, so let's kind of summarize some of the key points we covered in this presentation. So we talked about the differences between a latch bolt and a deadbolt. So a latch bolt is spring-loaded, it's beveled. So the latch bolt is designed so that you can slam the door and have it latch and or possibly lock behind you. A deadbolt locks dead in place when it is thrown. It has additional length to it, so it is designed to protect the door against forced openings. Deadbolts are found in mortise lock sets, not found in cylindrical lock sets. We talked about the difference between a thumb turn and a push button. So a thumb turn is something that you're going to turn, such as on a mortise lock, or on a cylindrical lock, you can push it in and turn it. Or you can have something as simple as a push button that you don't turn, you simply push in. Major difference is with a push button, generally with a push button on a lock, as soon as you push down the inside lever, the button pops out. With a thumb turn, that is not necessarily the case. It's not going to flip into the unlocked position when you push down on the lever. There are some special functions that will accomplish that, but the general rule of thumb is that it's going to stay locked if it's a push turn, or if it's a thumb turn, it generally stays locked even when you push down on the inside lever. We talked about how a passage function works. The fact that it is just designed to latch the door. There is no key on the outside, no locking, no push button or thumb turn on the inside, typically used on fire-rated doors. We talked about how an entry function works. It's going to have either a thumb turn, a push turn button, or a simple push button. These are designed to lock the outside lever, and you have a key on the outside to gain entry. Storeroom function, that's an easy one. That one is locked at all times. The outside lever is fixed or rigid. When you insert the key and turn it, it momentarily retracts the latch. As soon as you pull the key out, it's going to relock. Inside, there is no push button or thumb turn, but the inside is always free for immediate egress. Okay, we talked about classroom. Typical classroom door, the key on the outside locks and unlocks the outside lever. Inside is always free. We talked about the fact that that could cause a problem when there's an active shooter, because it would require the teacher to step outside into the hallway, putting them in harm's way if they need to lock the door down. We talked about how to choose the appropriate functions. One of the simplest ways of doing that is simply by identifying the room and looking for the name of the room in the function list to see if it's a match. That would be your first way to determine if the function is named after the room where it's being installed. Then, of course, you have to take a look at how you want the lock to behave. If you want it locked all the time, if you want to be able to lock some of the time, do you want to be able to lock it with a key? Do you want to be able to lock it with a push button or a thumb turn? Always locked, sometimes left unlocked. Those are all considerations you would need when you are choosing the appropriate lock function. Okay, so we do have some additional resources for you to check out under the allegiant.com/US training tab. We do have some additional videos for you to take a look at. We also have some online courses on our learning portal, some additional courses that you can take at your own pace. Then we have a blog called idighardware.com. This is written by one of our very own Allegiant employees, Lori Green. She is considered to be an industry expert when it comes to life safety codes and door hardware. A lot of good case studies, lots of question and answers. I'd highly recommend you check that out if you have any questions regarding life safety codes and door hardware. And then finally, we have a customer care number. Call customer care if you need any tech support when you're on the job site. They will put you in touch with tech support for Schlage, all the Allegiant brands, Schlage, LCN, Von Duprin, Steelcraft, and Falcon. So they'll do a great job of answering any technical questions that you have. All right, so that's going to conclude this presentation. I want to thank you very much for taking time to view this presentation. I hope you learned some useful information, and I hope you take advantage of some of our other learning presentations. Thank you all very much.